Hi, how are you?
Good morning, Tanya. How are you?
I'm doing simply marvelous. This here is kind of like a new phenomena for me to get up and work. Well, I'm not going to even say work, but participate in just moving around this early in the morning. you
And
know.
this is actually my late day. Usually I get up
Okay.
at 3:30 and I'm out of the house at 5. Sundays I have a late day.
Oh, okay. So before we really get into the conversation, I am drinking coffee and I don't want anybody to think I'm marketing for Starbucks. I'm not. Okay. All right. So, wow, it's great to be here having this conversation with you.
Same
I
here.
am so excited. I have, been living in my RV. I decided that I wanted to not live off the grid, but just live within what brought me comfort. I've always liked to camp. I've camped over 30 some years in a tent. And I realized while I was out there in the midst of the woods, I felt so free. I didn't really feel disconnected to anything. I just felt ultimately just free. It's just like, wow, I could live like this forever. And people would say, you are crazy, you're insane. And that just somehow over the years just ruminated, just like in my unconsciousness, well, my subconsciousness, because any opportunity I get to hang out in nature, I take. So I decided as I started thinking about my retirement, what did that mean? What did retirement mean for me? What kind of changes would I be interested in making, being retired? So therefore, I start connecting with, hey, I could just go anywhere I want. I can just do anything I want. So then I started looking at all these YouTube videos and about RVing, because I realized at this ripe age of 65 that I am now, tent camping is not an option unless it's forced. Some people like to do that, and I did in this time, but now I still need my creature comforts. And so I brought an RV and I pretty much, I say full-time RVing, but I'm in my RV about probably 90% of the time. So I guess that could be considered full-timing it in my RV. What do you think?
Oh yes, 90% yes.
I still go visit that place that's called home because my family is there. But I feel so. I mean, I sleep really well. I mean, just the things that I really, really wanted, I seem to have now. And those things don't come in the form of materialistic things, even though I got a pretty sharp RV. I would be in it right now, but this is part of that 10% time that I'm not in the RV, when I have to come out and do the things that society say that you're supposed to do to be a responsible individual. So I'm here doing those things. But in the meantime, I'm so anxious to get back to my world that I call freedom. I've been questioned by folks, you becoming a nomad. And I say yes, and I welcome that as part as being free. And part of what I want to do is to teach people or talk to people and help guide them into the things that bring them freedom, or what do they think about freedom. So with that, I'm gonna stop talking and I want you to introduce yourself, and then let's get started with opting for freedom.
Okay. My name is Marna Deitch. I'm have a few careers. I'm an interpreter for the deaf. I'm a certified motorcycle instructor, and I'm an actor. I also do weddings. I'm a minister, so but
Okay.
those I tend to do for my friends as a gift.
Hmm.
Um, so you want me to get into what my view of freedom is?
Well, yes, because these things that you just said, what you do, for a living, well, we all know that, I'm a psychotherapist and
Right.
I'm a life coach. And those things for me, um, they pay for me to, be a contributor in society, but
Yes.
they also bring me so much joy. I love working, doing what I do for work. It is my passion. It's my passion. I would do it for free if I didn't have to contribute to society,
And actually, when I was in college, that was my first major,
Mhm.
and I liked it, but it wasn't my passion.
Okay.
So, and it's funny how it takes us all in different directions.
Mhm.
Um, for me, when I went to college, well, first off, we're close to the same age. I'm 63.
Mhm.
And for us and our generation, when we were in elementary school and junior high, if you were a girl and they asked you what you wanted to be, your choices were pretty much a teacher or
Mhm.
a nurse.
Mhm.
So I never thought that I didn't. I mean, I just accepted it. Okay,
Mhm.
yeah, I want to be a teacher. I want to be a teacher. And I thought through junior high, I want to be a teacher. And
Mhm.
I got to high school and I joined the theater department. And then I went, okay, I think I found my passion.
Mhm. Mhm.
I want to be an actor. Um, when I went to college, I started right away getting a little pushback
Mhm.
from my family.
Mhm.
My parents were the type that they would say, we won't stop you from anything, but we want to discuss the pros and cons.
Mhm.
So, of course, there's a lot of cons being an actor. One
Mhm.
is hunger, big time hunger. Uh, my One of my aunts, I would say, was very socially uh, concerned.
Okay.
Uh, so being an actor in my family was not really what my family was brought up to be. My family was brought up to be doctors, lawyers, corporate people.
Mhm.
I come from a highly educated family.
Mhm.
In fact, I'm the only one of my family that does not have the official BA.
Okay.
I went to graduation, but I took an extension in one paper and
Okay.
I never finished it. So I say I have my BA, but
Mhm.
because I did everything except that one paper,
Mhm.
but I don't have the paper.
Okay.
And I have to say that's been a slight issue inside of me. But when I went to college and I wanted to major in theater, the pushback started.
Okay.
That's not a major. That's not a major. It's not
Mhm.
what you do. If you want to try it, yes, but get a fallback. Get a fallback. So I majored when I was a junior. I majored in clinical psychology,
Okay.
and then I realized it wasn't what I wanted to surround myself with for the rest of my life. So I
Mhm.
switched my major because you still are not a theater major. So
Mhm.
I switched my major to industrial organizational psychology.
Okay.
And I love that. Love that. But as soon as I graduated, I got, I actually 2 days before I graduated, I was given a choice that was going to direct the rest of my life.
Mhm.
Was I going to go on and get my MA and be what my family and society says should be?
Mhm.
Or I received a phone call offering me an acting internship
Okay.
by the Burt Reynolds Dinner Theater,
Okay.
which was a major opportunity. And I took that. And that started my life in freedom.
Okay.
My, but I was still getting pushback. I mean, that's a big name
Mhm.
at
Mhm.
the time. It was 1979. Burt
Mhm.
Reynolds was the biggest box office draw. And my family was proud. And when I say family, I don't mean necessarily my parents. I mean my aunts, uncles,
Mm-hmm.
cousins. My family was proud. It was a big step. But my parents died a year later. And my aunt actually at the funerals said, because I was only 22 when they died, and my aunt took me aside and said, we have faith. We know you'll give up this acting and go back to your psychology studies.
So even in you already making a decision for yourself, what felt like something that was freeing, they were still projecting onto you what's considered society's
Exactly.
validation. You can only
Exactly.
be validated if you do this.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And
And they were wonderful people. I don't want to broad stroke my family with that, but my family, my aunts and uncles, and my parents came out of the Depression era.
Mm-hmm. Well, we
So
all come from a place where, you know, when you even speak of that, for me, even as being a woman, being African American, it wasn't, you know, when folks think of being a clinical psychologist, folks just think, oh, yay, that's a great thing. But, you know, historically, that doesn't fit with my cultural
with your
background.
culture.
So
Yeah.
it's still like going against the grid. And I've been the
Yeah.
person that have went against the grid, I think since I was 2 years old, and I fell down the stairs running for a bike. And bikes wasn't allowed in our house because that wasn't a thing. You could get hurt. You know, they always played it safe, you know. So I am a product of playing it safe,
Yeah.
you know. So.
But I think what you and I did, because we went against the grain of our cultural backgrounds, I think when we found our freedoms, it became so much more exhilarating. And the struggle to keep going in the path of our freedoms elevated the exhilaration of that freedom. So I would say that the pushbacks weren't a bad thing.
No,
It made us who we are.
So when we say that word freedom, tell me, what does that mean to you? What does it mean? What is freedom to Marna?
It's happiness.
Okay.
It's happiness. I struggled with happiness. I've actually been thinking this would be my debut of this situation then. I was thinking of writing on Facebook this little blog about this one part of my life, because people see things that I write on Facebook and they see me as a happy person who's led a very exciting, full life. And they don't know this one part, and I do need to come out with this. I struggled with depression pretty bad. As I mentioned, it started probably when I was age 10. And my family moved from Brooklyn to Long Island. It was very uprooting for me. It was low level. And then at 22, I lost my parents and my grandparents of different illnesses within 2 months. My grandmother didn't die at that time, but she had a stroke, was very debilitated, and died 5 years later, the same day as my mother. And then the depression hit. I had to it took me about 11 years or so to redirect and rewire my brain and find happiness again. When you say, what is freedom to me? Doing the things after you struggle with depression like that, after it, and it was functional depression. It was bed depression for a few months, and then it was very functional depression. And to find your happiness again through that struggle is freedom. And it's like that forever figure 8 sign, and then doing the things that make you feel free
Mm-hmm.
gives you happiness. Both affect the other.
Yes, absolutely. And just for clarity for folks that will be viewing this video, depression is real. And folks look at people like you and me and others, many, many others. And because you are not a typical picture of what's being um, illustrated for depression, then folks don't realize that you might have depression. You know, when you see a person and they are, their symptoms are that of what's stereotypically symptomatic of depression. You know, sometimes someone may come up and want to talk to you and see if you need help or encourage you to get help. But what you're calling low level depression, there is a low level depression that some people just live with forever.
Yeah.
You know, they live with forever. And I'm not using the names of it here because that's not what this particular program is for. But there is a low level of depression that folks just, is almost like having generalized anxiety. You can have anxiety and not know what it is, but it doesn't have to be that very intense level of anxiety.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, yeah, but then there are also people, if they're not able to get to where you managed to go, where you could find your freedom through finding happiness, through working through your depression, it goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
And that's part of what I'm doing in my work that I do, in my mental health work that I do. I work with folks that have what you're calling a functional depression, because what you're saying is functional to me is sort of like displaced depression. It's like we can keep working and we can keep doing things, and you push that depression to the side,
Right.
but eventually it's just like anything else. It just
It bubbles up.
yeah, it just keep going until it finally pop.
What I was able to do, and it took a few years, but Dr. Wayne Dyer said one sentence that resonated big time with me. It's when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So the way I came out of the depression, I find I kind of related like a bodybuilder. When a very skinny person starts bodybuilding, they don't become big within a year. You know, it starts, they're building muscles. It might take 2 or 3 years before they get like this. So it was a workout. Every time I started viewing something negative, I would go, when you change the way you look at it, the things you look at change. Okay, what's another way? So I had to actually rewire my brain. And it took about maybe 3 years, 4 years.
And some folks, it takes longer, even longer than that. But, you know, this is phenomenal. You know, I want to talk to folks about freedom. What does freedom mean to you? You know, people think about freedom and they think of so many things, but it's usually in the traditional sense of freedom. But when you say freedom for me is finding my happiness, finding my way out of depression. And what did you have to do to find that freedom? I had to change my thinking, change the way I see things. I had to rewire my brain.
Yeah.
Even though I still live within some of societal constructs, it wasn't about what society say that I'm supposed to do. It's about what I finally realized that I needed for myself.
Exactly.
To create change to bring me freedom.
And then I did live a little lifestyle like you did. I've done like a couple of months at a time on my motorcycle, traveling the country in a tent.
Mhm. All
You know,
right. Tell me more about that. How was it traveling the country in on your motorcycle in a tent? Now, there's something that I dreamed of doing is putting a just this little bundle on the back of a motorcycle
uh-huh.
and just going off into the abyss, into nowhere. What was that like?
Well, I've gone cross country 5 times,
Okay.
and then I've gone up to the Arctic Circle and back, also on the motorcycle. Now, the first 3 cross country trips, the first one was in 1985 from New York to California. And then I did in 1986 back to New York and back to California. But southern route, middle, up and all over. I've been in all 50 states by
Okay.
motorcycle. The first trip across country was a direct result of the Depression. And what happened was my parents died. It was 1980, and I was a New York stage actor. And what disease, well, it was the early 80s rather. And what disease got started in the early 80s was GRID that became AIDS. And
Yeah.
of course, wiped out the acting community, and I'm losing all of my best friends.
Mhm.
And the final straw was a friend of mine one night disappeared, and just disappeared. So his parents didn't know how to maneuver New York City, so they signed over all power of attorney to me, and I'm now in charge of a missing person hunt.
Okay.
And in 1985, this was before computers.
Hmm.
You can't just put up a post and say, hey, have you seen this person? So I'm out every day and I'm passing out flyers and I'm doing newspaper interviews and radio interviews. Please, if you've seen this person. He floated in the Hudson River. We found him 6 weeks later. So when we found him, obviously not alive, his lover, George, who was my high school prom date, said to me, you're moving to California, aren't you? And I said, yeah, I'm out of here. And he said, can I go with you? And I said, I'd love it. And he said, how'd you like to go by motorcycle?
Okay.
And I said, you're crazy. Neither one of us have even been a passenger on a bike. And we both realized this is what we needed. We needed something stupid to combat all this horribleness that's been happening, because he also lost his parents. So we took a few lessons. We lucked out. We both passed our riding test.
Okay.
And 6 weeks later, we're on the road after the first time of being on a motorcycle. And we went cross country. So when you ask what that was like, the first few trips were petrifyingly scary because we didn't have the skill yet, but it was also exhilarating. It was freedom.
Right. Freedom.
Yeah.
Freedom is something different from what we are accustomed to. So freedom can be frightening, freedom can be really, really scary. I laugh when you say that because, as you know, I purchased an RV. I had never slept. I think I slept in the RV one time as a result of camping in my tent, and it was a rainstorm and my tent floated away. A friend of mine was there, had an RV, and I slept in her RV. Outside of that, I'd never been, like in a living situation inside of an RV, let alone get a hold of this, driving an RV. So I literally drive my RV. I have a Class A 35-foot plus RV that I drive myself. So that's sort of like that motorcycle. And then I'm thinking about, even when I went camping the first time, I had never put up a tent. I showed up in the woods with long red stiletto fingernails, and I set up a tent and I dug ditches. And then here you're saying you didn't know anything about a motorcycle. You took the lessons and you did it, and now you're a motorcycle instructor. You teach people, how to drive a motorcycle. So to me, when you allow yourself when you allow yourself to get out of your own way. Everything is not as glamorous as some of these things that we do see, on social media.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
struggle, it's a challenge. And I look at folks a lot of times when they're smiling, it's just like a clown. A smile is just the frown turned upside down.
Yeah.
That song, Tears of a Clown. And that's what it always remind me of. So I am doing Opting for Freedom as a platform to help folks, bring that into the light. Freedom is not easy.
It
Freedom
isn't.
is not easy. Freedom is frightening. I want to thank you for sharing your story, and I really, really empathize with you, for all of your losses. But I am so, so proud of you, how you have taken those losses and really looked inside of them. People think about loss as being something really horribly bad. I look at losses as opportunities for
It
growth.
it was there's a lot of emotions when you've gone through any loss, and
Mhm.
I went through more losses before I was 30 than many people ever experienced in a lifetime. And by the way, George, we lost, I think it was 2 years after that. He didn't finish the whole trip. He stopped in Texas, and what we didn't know is he had AIDS
Mm.
and went back east, and he was diagnosed, and we lost him soon after.
Mhm.
I looked back and I realized 100% of my life right now, and my life is good,
Mhm.
came because I lost my family.
Mhm. Mhm.
All of it. And when I say that, people, I think, first think, what, you have a good life because your folks died? Yes, because they made me the person I am and then said, now it's time for you to do it.
Exactly.
And they left so that I had the freedom to do it.
Mhm.
Now, I'm gay. And as it turns out, I have a brother and he's also gay.
Mhm.
And I think my family, my parents would have, they were very liberal for that era. And they
Mhm.
would have been fine if one of us were gay. And I think they had a hint that my brother was.
Mhm.
But I think both of us would have destroyed them
Mhm.
because it would have killed their dream.
Mhm. Mhm.
So when they passed, and trust me, I had more in the 22 years that they were all in my life than many people will ever have. They were wonderful people.
Mhm.
But I never had to go through coming out to my parents.
Mhm.
And my brother didn't either. And when they passed, my brother and I entered a direction individually, we didn't know we were both doing it, of activism for the gay community.
Okay.
We had to do it because other people had to be closeted. They could lose their family. They could lose their children.
Mhm.
It gave us freedom to do
Exactly.
things.
Again, in something that society, even in 2021, hasn't embraced, hasn't truly embraced, hasn't truly validated, just really approaching the place of tolerance. See,
Yeah.
and we all live a life of tolerating something, even tolerating living the lives that we don't even want to live, but we
Yeah.
tolerate it and we do it.
Yeah.
We tolerate it and we do it. So in opting for freedom and looking for freedom and learning how to be free, there is an exchange that must happen.
Yeah.
There is an exchange. And I don't like to call that exchange sacrifice. I call that exchange release. What are you willing to release in order to discover? See, you got to release. So you have to release something first in order to discover what you need to be free.
Financial security for me.
You know,
Scary.
I press people, yes, absolutely. Financial security. You know, folks have so many different things that they hold on to that becomes the shackles of their existence. And I always say, envision yourself in a field with everyone else, and we're all on equal planes. You know, financially, our health, our cultures, everything that we use now to set us apart from other people, all things truly being equal. Who are you then? Who are you then? What would you be doing then? How will you find your freedom out of the waves of life?
Yeah.
When we are all just one great big ocean, how will you ride the wave for freedom? How will you identify your freedom? And those are my questions. You know, in my work, I prepare folks for interviews, and I get them and they say, well, I don't know. When they ask me that question of why should they hire me? And I say to them, envision every person that's taking this interview being equal to you. They have the same training, the same experience, the same cultural backgrounds, the same age, the same health. I mean, there is like nothing different. What will make you different from the rest of those people? And my response to them is just bringing you authentically you into the room.
Yeah.
But most of us don't know how to do that because we have always tried to measure up to what has been socially projected upon us as the things that we're supposed to be doing. And every time we get to that place, somehow the bar has been moved.
Yeah.
So it appears that you can't ever reach it, you can't ever get it, you always struggle. So then you become in prison to the madness and you never become free.
Yeah.
So hats off to you, Myrna, that you were able to find your way through and continue to find your way through to
And like you,
freedom.
yeah, and like you just said, the bar does always rise.
Mm-hmm.
So my happiness today is not necessarily going to be here tomorrow. Yesterday, I had a glitch in my happiness.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday, I think I felt the pressure of a lot of things that I have to try to get done right now coming in at me, and I kind of imploded and maybe took it out on a good friend. And that was 2 days ago, rather. So yesterday she was like, I hate it when we fight. And I went, I didn't know we were fighting. I wasn't fighting with you. I wasn't fighting with you. And she was like, oh, okay. And then I had to readjust again.
Mm-hmm.
I go, okay, all right, that was yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's not that you ever reach it and you're there.
Mm-hmm.
Life's a travel. You're always reaching
There
it
you go. There
and
you
kind of
go.
traveling around it.
There you go. And things that you need to be free may change.
Yeah.
But true freedom is having the ability to release those things that no longer bring you happiness, peace, and joy. to continue to be on the journey to freedom. See, freedom is not a state of arrival.
Yeah.
Freedom is not a state of arrival. Freedom is a journey. It's a path. It's the path you're on. And it's the experiences that you have while you're on that path. But you have to be willing to release the things, the baggage that's making you not be able to embark on the journey. That's the true tragedy, when you're not able to embark on the journey.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I want to ask you a couple questions. These are kind of fun questions, nothing heavy. I have on my, let's see if you can see here, my would, shoulda, could, did shirt.
Can you stand up so I can see it?
Okay. Can you?
Could, would, should.
It did.
Did. Yes.
Yes. That's like my mantra. And if you notice, there's a line going through the would, coulda, should, and did.
Would, should, yeah.
Yes. Okay. So when you think back, what is something that you were told that you should do and you did it, that now in the freedom set journey you're on, that you would not have done? And what is something that now that you're on this path of freedom that you could do that you will?
What did I do that I wish I didn't? I know that I have answers to that, but
just give me one, because I know society has given us a lot.
Yeah, and I honestly, I can't give you one, because I think how I trained my brain, it's not to forget those things, they're there, but it's, and I'm not trying to be like Pollyanna or life is good, but in order to continue going in an society approved way, so to speak, I kind of have to focus more on that and the happiness that that gives me. So the other stuff I tend to kind of put in a different place, and I can't think. I'm like looking back through jobs that I've done that I didn't like. There was one job that I wish I never took. I hated it, but it didn't destroy me. It taught me a lesson. It taught me I'm not a salesperson.
So you repurpose those things that folks told you that you should do, and you did them.
Had an actual job, yeah. Like a 9 to 5
regretting that, instead of regretting it though, you repurposed it.
Yeah.
And so it helped create another path.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was selling ads for the Yellow Pages. It was,
oh my God, that sounds like just like agony.
Yeah. Although it was the gay and lesbian community Yellow Pages, but it was at a time when the computers, it was 2004 and computers were getting started, and I wasn't sure if people were going to use Yellow Pages anymore, and I don't like taking money from people. So I sold it, but I couldn't close it. So and I was having nightmares about the job. I was not doing well. So I finally just like quit, and I didn't know what I was going to do for money. But I quit, and somehow money came back to me.
See, you just released it. You released it, and what you need came. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what is there something right now today that you can do? Is synonymous with the path of freedom that you're on, and that you will do?
Get rid of the clutter in my apartment. That's one. There's a pile of stuff back there that I'm working on, but that actually is a part of freedom. I've lived in one apartment 35 years. And you tend to collect things.
Mhm.
And also when you lose your family, your parents and grandparents in the way that I did in such a short time, whatever you have of theirs became so important. And I needed time to realize that they're not in those things anymore. That I would like hold something and go, yeah, this gave me a good memory.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I couldn't let go of it because of the memory. So what I did was I called a friend over and I said, can I share this memory with you? So I would tell them the memory
Mhm.
and then got rid of the thing.
Oh, wow. That is
Somehow that worked for
beautiful.
me. Yeah. And then
That's
writing
beautiful.
down the memory,
Yes,
writing down the
absolutely.
memory.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
that's how I've been getting rid of clutter. And clutter has been a lack of freedom to me.
Absolutely.
That's the path I'm on now. And my brother also.
Absolutely. Again, this has been really great having this conversation with you today. I want us to have even more conversations, especially I'm going to have a segment about opting for freedom uh, when you start thinking about retirement and approaching retirement. That's a huge one because
Yeah.
I have been talking to so many people about that particular topic, and it's amazing the things that people have come up to me and said to me about what retirement mean and how it equates freedom. And then of course I'm out on the road in my RV, and so I am in an entire community at times of people that are retirees
Right.
and what that looks like for them as far as freedom.
Yeah.
And I just want to thank you so much. And it's just been wonderful talking with you. I appreciate and honor your willingness just to be open and candid about your challenges with depression. And we need more of that. We need more people willing to speak up and speak out about depression. There is many, many, many more people having some level of depression than we will ever know.
Yeah.
And I would like to have a safe space for someone to say, I don't quite feel so jolly all the time, and it has been an issue. What can I do?
Yeah.
And how can I help? Thank you. Thank you so much. And you go and have a good day. I know that you're getting ready to go and teach people how to be free and let the wind blow through their hair on the motorcycle. And I still have that dream of at least riding a motorcycle on the highway somewhere. I don't know if out on the highway. I think it might have to be in the mountains because, you know, the
Yeah.
highway I don't think is a real great place to be on a motorcycle.
It can be scary. Yeah.
Mhm.
But the highway also is just a straight shot when you can just relax and be free.
Yes. Thank you again, and you have a super wonderful day.
You too.
All right. Bye bye.